First off, I just want to say thank you to Ginny D and Pointy Hat for creating Monster Week. It's been a lot of fun making these dragons. For Dragon Week, I decided to create 4 Draconic hybrids, basically mashing together dragons with another creature type, aberrations, celestials, fae, and fiends specifically. Now, the story behind the creation of these dragons is actually really funny, but if you just want to see the dragons, this is the time code to skip to. A few of you are aware that I've been tinkering with the Warlock class, trying to create a version where pact boons matter more. And for high level Chainlock specifically, and spoilers for Season 1, Episode 19 of Young Justice, there's a scene where Clarion the Witch Boy turns his familiar Teakle from an adorable kitty cat into a monster capable of batting away Superboy with a single paw. That's hilarious, and I want high-level Chainlocks to be able to do that. Take their familiars and transform them into incredibly powerful beings that can just decimate the battlefield. Originally, I decided that the Pseudo-Dragon would be an exclusive familiar to the Great Old One, because everybody had a few exclusive familiars. But other than their telepathy, they don't really have a super strong... The Great Old One doesn't have a super strong claim to the Pseudo-Dragon like the Archfey does to the sprites and fiends do to Quasits. Because the only thing that Pseudo-Dragons have that they share with Great Old One, aesthetically, is telepathy. And so I decided, I was like waffling back and forth between, should I give the Pseudo-Dragon to everybody, because that would mean I would need to make more transformations, a different transformation for each patron, or just be like, what, it's fine, everybody has their own stuff, it's whatever. And I was waffling back and forth. I'm like, okay, you know what? It's 2 a.m. I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to deal with this later. I kid you not. I wake up the next morning to a single notification on my phone. It is Ginny D announcing Dragon Week. So at that point, I'm like, I got it, right? So I ended up making new transformations for each of the 4 patrons. However, you notice it may say young on the stat blocks. That's because my brain didn't stop. And I ended up making stat blocks for each of these dragons for each of the Draconic age brackets. So, Wormling, Young, Adult, and Ancient. Yeah. So that's the story of how one stat block became 16. Now for the dragons, I'm not going to go through all of the stat blocks because that would take forever. But I am going to talk about each of the dragons' breath weapons, their own spin on Blindsight, because I don't think Blindsight is very interesting. It's just too generic for me. And also, they all have a spin on the ability Magic Resistance, because it's fine, but it could be more interesting. Heartworms are the combination of Fae and Dragon. They have the ability to breathe Sylvan magic onto an area that deals damage to everything except for beasts, plants, and other Fae. Instead of Blind Sight, the Heartworm's special sight is called Life Sight. Rather than just being able to see everything perfectly, they can sense the sparks of life that animate living things. And so if you are a living creature, they can sense you. But for an example, if you were a Dampier, you wouldn't set off that radar because you're technically not alive. As for the Heartworm's magic resistance ability, it's called Vessel of Life. In addition to granting it advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects, if they succeed on a saving throw, they instead take nothing and also heal themselves a little bit depending on what the spell's level was that was used against them. Mindworms are part dragon, but also part aberration. Rather than a breath weapon, they can unleash a blast of psychic energy that damages and disorients anything caught inside. Their sense is called Mindsight, allowing them to sense organic brains in the vicinity. But, for example, if you were a moon druid who shapeshifted into an elemental, you don't have an organic brain at that point and would disappear off of the Mindworm's psychic radar. Mindbreaker is the Mindworm's variation of magic resistance. In addition to granting an advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects, if they succeed on such a save, they can force the caster to make an intelligence saving throw. If the caster fails that saving throw, they temporarily lose access to the knowledge of how to cast that spell in the first place. Pitworms are the hybridization between fiends and dragons. They don't have any arms or legs, but they do have a second head, which makes up for it in combat, as their right head can breathe a cone of fire and their left head can breathe ice. And yes, they can do it simultaneously, although granted not at the same targets. In addition to those 2 breath weapons, the Pitworm has the ability Soul Sight, allowing it to sense spirits and people's souls in general. So, if you were, for whatever reason, an individual who didn't have your soul, such as, the people who may or may not have sold their soul for knowledge and power, you wouldn't show up on their radar. The warning for casters against pitworms is that their scales are quite literally made of sin. In addition to granting them advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects, if they succeed on a save, they can unleash one of the deadly sins back on you. Starworms are the celestial dragons. Their breath weapon is a jet of high-pressure water that damages and knocks back those it hits, because water dragons are cool and I don't think we have enough of them. The Starworm's special sense is called Oathsight. It allows them to sense magical bonds of a creature, place, or object. So, a Paladin's Oath, a Warlock's Pact, or the deal you made with a Fae last week. But also, it could sense what god an object is dedicated to, or, if a place has been desecrated or consecrated. In addition to granting them advantage on saving throws against spells and magical effects, their ability Shining Star allows them to, if they succeed, force the caster to make a Constitution saving throw or be blinded by the blast of light that the Starworm emits. Now, obviously, the older dragons have legendary actions and lair actions, because I do agree with Pony Hat that lair actions are cool and should have been kept in. But other than that, I think that's everything. So, thank you all for watching. Let me know what you think either the next time I see you or down in the comments. And until I see you again, stay safe, stay healthy, don't die.